Well, welcome back to Small Changes Equals Big Shifts. I'm so excited about sharing my phenomenal friend with you of just about 4 years, well, actually 3.5 to be almost exact, Dr. Suzanne Rowden. Suzanne, welcome to the call.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, Suzanne, why don't you give a little bit of your background? I'm always amazed about your credentials, especially, kind of growing up on the East Coast and how you kind of got into medicine.
Well, I am very fortunate that I always knew I wanted to be a doctor and wound up being very fortunate in getting a scholarship through the Air Force. And the Air Force really helped me kind of open my eyes to alternative medicine. I was trained fully in hypnotherapy in the Air Force. I opened up an acupuncture center in the Air Force and really saw a lot of the good that these things could do. From there, I went on to teaching medicine at the University of Southern California, USC, and running student health for the entire Health Science Center campus. That was a wonderful experience. And from there, I decided to go back into practicing medicine on my own and had an opportunity and moved to New Zealand and lived there for 5 years and practiced medicine. And while I was there, I had quite a few unique experiences with alternative medicine and wound up going back to school for 2 years and studying homeopathy. That really changed the way I looked at medicine. It changed the way that I was able to help people see where their body may have taken a turn and how we might be able to follow the road back and actually get rid of diagnoses and truly get back to health. And that was so rewarding that I just have never been able to turn back. So when I came back to the United States, I really started to look at how I could continue to practice medicine in a more holistic manner.
Wow, and just a little bit thinking about some of the great experience you've had. Also, you did some work with NASA.
NASA. When I was in the Air Force, I was stationed at one of the bases where the flight shuttle had an alternative landing site in California at Edwards Air Force Base, and they needed qualified physicians, and I had always tried to have my credentials always ready and prepared, especially for emergency work. So trauma surgery was something I was actually formally trained in, even though my specialty is family medicine, and I was asked to actually support the astronauts, so I spent 2 years with NASA as well. That was very fun. Actually, I've been very fortunate, lots of very unique experiences through my career, but that one was definitely something I never would have anticipated.
Well, it's interesting to think about all these experiences to have led up to what you're doing now in Kansas City, and you're a holistic family doctor. If people want to get your website, holisticfamilydoctorkc.com, talk just a little bit. We're going to get to detoxing in just a second, but I just really want people to know how fortunate we are to, A, have you in Kansas City, how fortunate I am to have you in my life, and third of all, how fortunate I am to have you on this call. So I just thank you. So talk a little bit about your practice.
Thank you very much. Well, what I've done really is try to keep my practice very simple, and I run my own practice with no nurse, no secretary, so that I'm fully available to my patients so that there's nothing getting in the way of the communication, because I feel like the communication is essential when I'm looking at a person and how their body is shifting. When I'm trying to help it shift back to health, every little turn that it takes tells me what it next needs to heal. So they access me by phone and by email and by text, and we work backwards or hopefully really forwards through maybe working away from medications or trying to help them, get rid of pain or, heal whatever the wound is, whether it's, asthma or skin problems like eczema or whatever, and we try to use diet and natural products as often as possible and hopefully get them off medications if they're on those, if it's possible.
I love what you said, shift back to health,
yes.
Especially with our calls, small changes equal big shifts. And one reason I love working with you is, I'm thinking of actually somebody that we're co-working with right now who was doing a lot of the right things, but wasn't having the results that I thought she should have by doing some of the things she did to clean up her diet. And so it was great to be able to send her to you and have you look at her body and say, okay, why is her body not detoxing or healing the way it could be healing? And when I say the word detoxing, for me, I'm not just thinking of the chemistry aspect. I'm also thinking of, the mental aspect and the energetical aspect. And so I believe, what's your thought about detoxing? How would you define that?
Well, I agree with you that so many of it is being able to get rid of lots of prior input. So, we talk about toxicities, and those can be emotional as well as physical. And so it may even just be a car accident in the physical nature. And then it's also the foods and the chemicals that we put in. So, sometimes one of the things I loved about homeopathy, it was one of the first tools that I was ever given that actually really can help to take away some of the patterns that emotional trauma has done in the past. For example, the shock of a car accident. The shock alone can cause a lot of trauma, so you can try to help push that shock back out. So I agree with you. It can be emotional, physical, or chemical.
Another key thing, prior input. I'm not sure I've ever heard it put that way, prior input. So whether it's some belief system or medications or trauma, whether it's physical or emotional.
That's right.
Foods.
That's right. And, that's right. Whatever that exposure was, so it could have been living in a certain part of the country where there's no ozone layer or there's a big, paper mill factory or something like that could be contributing to the stress on the whole system. So
I'm here with Suzanne Rowden, MD, family doctor specializing in holistic medicine, and we're having a conversation about detoxing. And so if we take it a step further, so let's say that I came to see you and I was having, let's say, headaches and gut issues. What does a conversation look like if I was sitting down with you? Because it's different than possibly going to see a traditional family doctor. How would it look different so somebody knows what to expect?
Well, the first thing I'm looking at is really every single thing you're currently putting into your body. That may be anything from the foods you're eating, what does your diet look like, to every type of supplement, medication, whether it's over-the-counter or prescription. Is there any other kind of drug you're using, whether it's alcohol or tobacco or even street drugs? And then what is your daily habits that may be so consistent that you can't even see the difference? So that's what makes it so hard to see what might be contributing. So is it a Diet Coke you're drinking every day? Is it, the fact that you have a cup of coffee or 2 or 3 every day? What is that? What is the everyday input into your body? I want to know every single thing. And that's a very important part, because you can't detox unless you look at what the total load is on the body to begin with. And most detoxification, especially like in a diet type sense, they really force you to stop everything. So, we as individuals just have to look at our own lives and say, what are we putting in every day that my body is being forced to deal with on a load? And that maybe in totality it's just too much to get rid of on a daily basis. And, the organs of the body that get rid of things, the most important one is the liver. The liver is key to everything. It detoxifies every chemical, every food coloring, every preservative, every spray that might be on there that you haven't been able to wash off. But then it detoxifies every drug we take pretty much. There's very few that only go through the kidneys. Most go through the liver. It detoxifies herbal input. It detoxifies vitamins. And it definitely breaks down so many of the things that we're exposed to, whether it's shampoo or hairspray or perfumes or, scents that we plug into the wall. The liver is utmost important. So we're looking at what is the total load that we're putting on that. When that doesn't work, when that's broken down, the other places that detoxify are the kidneys, the lungs, and the skin. And so you will start to see problems in all of those areas: irritable bladders, asthma, eczema. That means that area of the body is detoxifying and the liver is not doing a full job. So the first thing to do is look at every single thing you're putting in, and especially if you're going to try to detoxify, you want to minimize as much of that as you can and get back to completely healthy, raw food type diets if you're going to, start to look at that.
Looking at all your input and look at the total load. I think so many people say, I've done that forever though. I've had 3 cups of coffee forever, and I've had 2 Diet Cokes a day, and what changed? Why did my body start crashing? Do you ever hear that?
Oh, all the time, and I say it's always the straw that broke the camel's back. It's rarely the needle in the haystack. Mm-hmm. It's rarely that you're going to look for the one thing that changed it all. The reality is it's the 20 things, and then it's the 21st thing that just made the cart go. Sometimes it can be a little different, like, again, maybe a major car accident where you're in the ICU and you've had, a complete shift in everything and every organ system, that sort of thing. Coming out of that, yes, you can find that there's the initial cause. But for most people, when we can't figure out where it's coming from, it's because it's built up over time. And we just got to keep lifting each straw so we can finally, fix the wheels under the cart, that sort of thing. So the first thing I'm always looking for is, what are you putting in? What are you putting in? And then the second thing I'm looking for is, and this is very important, is how are your bowel movements? Because if your liver is functioning and you're managing to detoxify some things, but you have a severe problem with constipation or even a moderate problem, all of that stuff keeps sitting in your bowel, and your bowel walls will reabsorb it. And then you put more strain back on that liver. So one of the key things that we must do to help clean up a system and help the body actually cure itself is that you get that liver functioning, and then you make sure the bowels are moving every single day. One of the key things about that is to be on probiotics in a tablet form, which is the good, healthy bacteria that realigns your GI tract and helps to start digest your food and actually get vitamins and minerals and that sort of nutrient absorbed. So you want to use a probiotic that's either a really healthy liquid, or you can do like water kefirs, but I really recommend that it's its own source rather than an over-the-counter yogurt or something like that. It needs to be a fermented product or a tablet or a probiotic liquid, and I find those probiotics easier. And then if somebody continues to be constipated, magnesium is the best option. It is needed for the bowel walls and muscles to do their movement and to actually have that peristalsis, which is the muscular action that moves the bowels along. So I cannot tell you how often patients have magnesium deficiency. And if you're constipated, you're magnesium deficient. If you're having foot cramps or leg cramps, Charlie horse type cramping muscles, you're magnesium deficient. If you have heart palpitations, it is very likely part of what is going on for you, and you need to have it tested. You're probably magnesium deficient. But it is one of the most common problems, and it settles so much constipation without you having to take lots of prescription medicines to move those bowels along. Magnesium is used in that muscle and every muscle of the body to relax. That's one of the first things I do with people is get them on probiotics and, if necessary, magnesium. And then I try to get their liver functioning through natural methods, usually diet. It's the thing I concentrate on most. There are lots of supplements and tablets out there, and there's not a single one that actually have the enzymes that are the vitality of life. They will have minerals and they will have vitamins, but enzymes are only found in live food. We're not talking about digestive enzymes. We're talking about the kind of enzymes that the liver needs to function, and these come through foods. And you can either get that by eating those foods or juicing those foods. Juicing is a very easy way to give the bowel a rest so it doesn't have to work, so the liver can just concentrate on detoxing rather than digesting the next meal.
Oh, I love that. I just want to recapture a little bit a couple things you said. And first of all, you'd be happy to know, and probably not surprised, I have a pill probiotic in my home, as well as a liquid probiotic that I actually just mix into a multivitamin intake, it's been pretty powerful. And I have magnesium in like 3 or 4 different forms. I have Magnesium Calm in the powder form. I have magnesium oil. Have you been using magnesium oil much?
Absolutely. Magnesium oils and Epsom salt baths. Good old-fashioned Epsom salt. Exactly. Topical magnesium. You'll absorb it through the skin. It's an excellent answer.
Yeah, I'm really loving that. So I just want to remind our listeners that I'm talking to Dr. Suzanne Loudon, holisticfamilydrkc.com, and HOLISTIC, holisticfamilydrkc.com. She's just doing some amazing work, and like I said, we've been working together now for, not to be counting, but almost exactly 30 months. And is it 30? No, it's longer than 30 months. It's it'd be 3 years in June, huh?
I think so,
right?
Absolutely, yes.
So, gosh, 41, 42 months. I'm kind of a date kind of freak. You know me very well. Just kind of helps the history. And I think part of it, and one thing I was wondering, does it help you if people take time to kind of write out their detailed history about what their body's been through, good and bad? Does that help you when you're doing a consultation?
Very, very much. In functional medicine, we call it a timeline. And I really try to go through that with people, and you can almost see the picture right in front. And so when they come and they have the dates and they really think about, well, no, that's when this happened and that's when this happened. And what I love to be able to do is show them each step where it may have affected that health and how one thing added to the next, and they can finally see what's actually, occurred and how those changes have happened. And, being able to then say, okay, then this is the step we need to get back. Then we need to take that step to get back there. But the timeline, and the other thing that's extremely helpful is every symptom that they're actually having. If they don't tell me that they're having foot cramps, I don't know that they're magnesium deficient. If, headaches and, whether it's a numbness or a tingling or a rash or, it can be so many things. And each one of those things helps me to know what the deficiency might be that's occurring in the body, and therefore what vitamin or what mineral might best help them to recover that function.
Gosh, I'm just sitting here thinking about some people and that we've gotten the privilege to care for. And I think that's what's another hot button for me, and a little off topic, but on topic about detoxing is so many times we have people caring for us that we wouldn't, want to be at the special moments in our lives, whether it's a birth or whether it's a marriage. And I just want people to get that it's a privilege to care for you. It's also your responsibility to tell them what they need to know so they can best help you, whether it's like writing a detailed history, to really take time to say, you know what, I'm going to take your advice. And what I like to do with my patients, if I'm pushing them a little bit much, I'll say, okay, now don't just say yes, but why don't you tell me the next step you can take to get well? So I love that about your approach, and so I just want to remind our listeners that, we really work for the patient, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely, and it is a privilege. It's an absolute privilege. You have the word right there. I feel so fortunate.
So I just want to, as we start to close up this call, let you kind of give a few more closing things. I just want to remind our listeners a couple of things. But, look at the total load. It's not usually, like you said, that last straw. It just put too much pressure, the straw that broke the camel's back. It's important to remember. I love how you really iterated, I'm not sure that people really caught it because there's so much information, is real food. There's so many liver detoxes online and all these different things you can do. The majority of the time, food's going to be where it's at. You may need to do a little bit of something, but it's not going to. You shouldn't have to spend hundreds of dollars on the detox program. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And I guess one of the other points to just be very cautious about is that if a person is on more than 3 medications, doing any sort of significant diet change will change the dynamic of that medication. And especially if you use foods that are really supporting your liver, all of a sudden where one medicine was being tolerated, now it may be not enough or it may be too much. And it's very important to monitor your blood sugars, monitor your blood pressure, monitor, any of the things that you're being treated for, and discuss that very carefully with your doctor as you go. You can't just make these significant changes without knowing that therefore your medications will also need some shifting. And very often for the better. Very often you'll be able to break them in half or, slowly cut them down, but they need to be done in a safe manner. So food is the best medicine, And what will happen is the body starts to heal itself. The point is that those needs for those medications will often go away, or at least for most of them, and you need to be working with your doctor to slowly, adjust them as your body shows the shifting and the changes.
I'm thinking about this patient I just sent you literally 3 weeks ago, and she was not making the progress, even though she was doing a lot of the right things. And then finally it came to a point where I said, you know what, you really got to talk to somebody. You've made lots of great changes, but you're not monitoring your medications. And as you well know, as a chiropractor, that's not my expertise.
Right.
So I was able to refer them to you, and within 5 days, this is a different person. She's been miserable for about 10 years. Yeah. And so from a thank you from my heart for being able to be somebody out there that I can send to people I love and care about too. So thank you.
Those are the best things that happen on a daily basis, and they make every day worthwhile, but that's exactly right. She was making very good changes and working very hard, and really she just needed a little bit more of a roadmap.
I just want to just say once again, thank you so much for joining us on Small Changes Equals Big Shifts. You can feel free to replay this back over and over at drmichellerobin.com. Check out my good friend, Dr. Suzanne Rao, at holisticfamilydoctorkc.com. And if you don't know where to start, make sure you're pooping, my favorite subject. So that's the one thing that I think we'll take from this talk. If you don't know where to start, make sure you're getting good bowel movements with maybe a great probiotic and maybe some magnesium. So Dr. Suzanne, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you again for having me.